computer. There we go. And welcome to this portion of the Peer Fit Connections Friday group. Ellen, let's go to you. You had a question or experience you wanted to share with the group.
Yeah, so I've talked about this family before. This is one of my families who's really struggling. And this is the one I posted about a family, and everyone was like, therapy. This mom needs therapy. And I got really upset because this is not a family who can afford therapy. She's on medical assistance, and there are not a lot of resources for families on medical assistance for mental health. There's a few, but getting her to class is a miracle. So getting her, if we were to sign up for therapy, I would have to do it for her, and then we've got the boundaries and whatever. But I'm just looking for ways. The complicated death in her family is that her sister committed suicide almost 2 years ago, and left her niece behind. So we'll call mom Sarah. Okay. Mom's name is Sarah. So Sarah's daughter, and her niece are very close in age. I think they're only like 2 or 3 months apart. The struggle that I'm having with helping this family is that these little girls were 18 months old when auntie and mom died, right? But they want to remember sister. So they talk about her constantly. And this is really, really confusing for these little girls who are now 3. How do you, and then they talk about, she's not here, she's in heaven, So how do you help a family where these children do you see what I'm saying? I don't even know. Like, they have pictures of her and they're like, but this little girl doesn't even remember her mom. And so she's calling my mom, Sarah, she's calling her aunt mommy, right? Because she doesn't have any other mom. Grandma and grandpa are raising her. But they're like, no, I'm your aunt. Your mommy's gone. I don't know. And so now she said, now her own daughter, Sarah's own daughter, is obsessed about death. Are you going to die? Am I going to die? Why did she die? Why did she, and then she's like, we haven't told her it was suicide because I feel like that's too big for a 3. I'm like, yep, it is. It's one of those situations. Like, it's one thing to remember someone like a grandparent or, somebody that they actually knew. But she brings it up all the time. And then her daughter's like, when is auntie going to be undead? And, we talk about death being so gray. It's such a gray area for kids, and they're so black and white. I don't know. I don't know. I've sent her the Goodbye book, The Next Place, like all the books in the world. She said, we read them all. But I don't want to say obsessed, but I feel like this family obsesses over this mother and daughter and sister's death. And I don't want to say, can you stop talking about her? Because that's not fair, but maybe stop talking about her around the kids. I just don't know. Oh, it would be a good question for Mary Kay.
I want to jump in because I think there's so much value in, we talk so much about identity development, significance, belonging, right? And her experience, her story is exactly how it unfolds, right? Her mom did pass away. We don't need to talk about the details, right? Because she's too young as to why, but we do need to keep talking about mom. That's my opinion, and forever, because as she grows, the mom story is a big piece to that identity development. And so I guess for me, I would encourage, to continue telling stories of and sharing memories of, the biological mom. I think the other pieces, I think we're talking about 2 different things, because I hear you saying that we are maybe obsessed about what the process of death and dying is, right? And so I think that's one thing. It's educational. It could be scientific. I understand what you're saying. They've got a piece to a religious aspect, because they're talking about abstract, right? They're talking about heaven and they're talking about other things. And I think all of that is important, but theologically, like your theology grows over time, right? So that will come in time too, as that story unfolds, as she gets more understanding of what her own theological beliefs will be. But the identity development piece, that's where I'm chiming in here. I think we have to do everything we can to maintain the memory of biological mom, whether that's through photos or tradition that we set where we celebrate. Maybe we place I don't know, I'm making this up, but maybe we give her a place at the table at the little girl's birthday. I don't know. Or we celebrate biological mom's birthday, because we can commemorate. And I really do believe that when she gets this assignment in the future, you can name anyone in the whole world, a prince, a hero, anyone you could possibly want to have lunch with or spend a day with. You know what? She's going to mention her mom. She is, because that person will be so, she'll know so much about her and how wonderful and all of the amazing aspects of who that person was that she didn't get to know personally. And so I think it's about letting her know mom, biological mom, as personally as possible in her absence.
And I think they're doing a good job of that. I mean, they just, but what I'm struggling with, I mean, mom clearly, well, and here's the other thing. Mom had a baby 5 months ago. He was hospitalized he just couldn't keep his birth weight up. He kept falling asleep, a whole bunch of stuff. And she was hospitalized for excessive blood loss. And while she was in the hospital, she also tried to end her life. So she was hospitalized for PPD, postpartum psychosis. And her little guy went home without her. So mom is dealing with, her mental health is really struggling. Boyfriend is not helpful. So mom's going through a lot, but she brings it up every class about, her sister being gone. So I know she needs therapy. I keep talking to her about trying to find a therapist with MA. Because I think they've got that down. I think they do a really good job of talking about her sister. But the kids just her daughter especially just is really upset by it. So it's good. Thank you, Nikki. It's good to know that they're talking about it. Sometimes I wonder if it's too much. Do you know what I mean? But maybe not. I don't know. It's just a really hard thing.
One more question. Do you know if they've ever connected to the suicide prevention number or to Day One? Because they'll connect the families to sliding fee scales or free services, free therapy. And I hear you saying there's probably a barrier to even attending therapy, but if she's connected to, because it sounds like she was perhaps suicidal or like,
she did. So she was away from her baby. So when she attempted to kill herself in her hospital room. And then she was admitted on a 72-hour hold. And then she was in a very intense mother baby program. It was a outpatient mother baby program. So no, she's, it's one thing at a time. It's one step at a time. So she was doing therapy, but it wasn't about grief. It was about postpartum stuff. Do you know what I mean? And I'm sure that stuff came up. And now she's told me last week that her boyfriend is being a jerk and yelling at her and yelling at the kids. And she's like, are my kids going to be damaged because he's yelling at me? And I'm like, oh my God, just one thing after another. She just cannot get ahead, So this is a multifaceted. So 988. Yep. 988. And then you said, what was the other one you said, Nikki? Because I haven't done that with her.
Day One, they're focused on a few things. Domestic abuse is often the most prevalent, which is not what you're describing, but they also
Day One crisis line.
Yeah.
Okay.
They would also make connections.
Okay.
It's not their first and foremost thing that you're going to see on their website, but I think like calling 911, right? That's 988 for suicide prevention, and they would get her connected locally.
Okay. Yeah, because I feel like right now her main concern is her own mental health based postpartum, right? But this grief stuff is, I think it's filtering into it. It's so interconnected. You can't, extract one piece of it from another. So Yeah, I'll get her to that. I think she would go. But it has to be cheap, free. I mean, they are broke. She was, when they were in the hospital, her credit card was declined at the hospital when her son was airlifted. Because she'd had no money in her account. And so I gathered $300 from her class so that she could have food to eat. And the social workers weren't great. I was like, find a social worker. You're a nursing mother with a baby in the NICU. Like you should have already received. She was not eating. So I don't know. I just feel like the systems have failed her again and again and again. But I also have to be careful because she'll text me on a Saturday morning. Do you know what I mean? And it's my work text and I don't respond. I tell her Monday through Friday, and on breaks, I'm not available. Do you know what I mean? So, county case. Oh yeah, I could definitely try that. I know our county's pretty good, better than others, but the problem is I can tell her about all these things, but will she actually do them? I just don't know. That's the hardest part.
Ellen, so do you think a grieving group could be helpful for her? I know resource is free.
Yeah,
She can attend in person or through emails, like both.
Yeah.
Do you
I mean, we
think?
don't have anything local. I mean, I think she would go if she could get connected, but also she has no one to watch her kids. Boyfriend's useless. I mean, he really is. He's useless. So I don't
It
know.
is in Minnesota. That group was in Minnesota.
Yeah, it'd be nice if there was one in Minnesota.
Okay, I will look for that and send to you.
Thank you. I mean, like I said, I can lead her to water. Like you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. But at the same time, I'm just like, oh, honey, there's stuff for you. You just have to take a part in it. But the grief stuff, I think, is what she needs to tackle. I just think that is, and her sister, it was depression and drugs. So, and that I just don't want this mom to follow the same path. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
So Ellen, so how much of the experience with this mom in this incredible situation is you and the mom, and how much of it is her and the ECFE group? Like, are other parents aware, involved? Because my head is racing on a number of things, including her being monopolizing because of her obvious need.
She does not monopolize. A lot of this is one-on-one.
Okay.
A lot of it is one-on-one. She'll stay after class, but she brings up, she's in 2 classes. She brings her baby to my Friday baby class, the 5-month-old, and she brings her almost 3-year-old to our multi-age class. It's in that class that she brings up almost every week that she's helping raise her niece because her sister committed suicide.
Mm-hmm.
And that just constant questions about death and dying. Yeah, like I said, like an obsession.
And she'll bring those questions up after the class?
She doesn't so much bring them. She just usually drops the line in the class.
Yeah.
Like, and she's not a monopolizer.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, she'll ask me questions after class, or she'll just like drop it in. Like if someone mentions a death, she'll be like, yeah, my sister died. And so she never monopolizes, but she's much more comfortable talking with me one-on-one. We've done a lot of one-on-one chats.
How do the other parents respond to her? I mean, now I'm thinking 2 things. One is if they can be supportive at all. And second of all, if she's bringing this up a bit, it could be a trigger, right? For other families.
She's pretty closed off to other people.
Okay.
She's pretty closed off. I think trust is an issue for her. She has not made any friends in these groups. I mean, she's been coming, and it's not that my moms are not, they're lovely, they're supportive. And when she was in the hospital, I said, guys, she has no money. They're like, oh my God. And they threw money at me. My Venmo account was just dinging all day. And she was very gracious, and she thanked everyone. She started crying when she thanked everyone when she came out of the hospital. And they did not know the extent. I just said she was struggling with some mental health. And she then shared with them that she was struggling with, I did not say it. I just said, he's in the NICU. They're up at Children's. Unfortunately, she has not made any connections. She's really, I mean, can you blame her? She's a real Debbie Downer.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she just kind of emits this, how Pigpen emits a cloud of dust and dirt. This mom just emits a cloud of sadness. She really does. And I think she has not made any, she's not made any friends or connections.
Yeah.
So,
What a lifeline your 2 classes must be for her, though.
yeah, I hope so, you know, I just wonder, I just feel like it's not enough. But I also can't be that, you know what I mean? This is that firm boundaries, like, yeah, she wanted to come see me in the she wanted me to come see her in the hospital. And I sent an email, I think maybe you guys might've been on it. I just sent it out to a couple people. Maybe it was just a pre-made group and I was like, what do I do? And Mary Kay, of course, was like, you know, if you're not comfortable, don't, if your gut says no, don't do it. And I was like, my gut says no, because then I don't want to be a crutch. I want to be a help. I want to be a guider, but not a crutch. So, but thank you for these other services. I'm just going to keep harassing her. I actually am just going to be like, did you call that number yet? How about yet? Did you do it now? You need to do it now. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just going to get on her case because I feel like I have that relationship with her and I can do that. Because she needs more than what I can provide. And maybe if I just tell her that, like, she needs intense therapy in a lot of areas.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, oh, I think we could. Yeah. Could we make the call together? I mean, for sure. And I told her, I did say, have you looked at BetterHelp? And I didn't realize BetterHelp doesn't take insurance. I did not know that. And she said no, but then I sent her Psychology Today and I wheedled it down to Minnesota virtual takes MA. And I sent her a list of therapists. And I said, hey, look what I found. Check these out. Click on each one. So I'm giving her the info.
Mhm.
But she has to be the one to pull the trigger. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So anyway, well, thanks everybody. It's, you know how sometimes you just get parents really wear you down. I'm not going to lie. She's exhausting because she needs so much but she's incapable of caring for herself. Because I think she's pouring everything into her kids. And now that I know from 2 weeks ago that her boyfriend's being a douche. That's just, you know, it's so hard.
Yeah. So I guess the one thing I'm thinking of is, you know, this is a very clear, specific situation and of the challenge. And yet it is, I think, representative of like general principles for us as facilitators, educators, caring people, right? Is when we have that one person who has extraordinary needs, right? And sort of what is our baseline service we offer to everybody. And then that sort of next level stuff of being compassionate and approachable and you know, resourceful. And, you know, like I'm continually impressed, Nikki, by like how much you know, like all of the resources that you know. And what I mostly think of as you offer the resources is, and Ellen, you do too, is the like, you know, how can we enable all parenting educators to be as resourceful, meaning that, you know, like it was sort of like we were taught, like Jennifer was asking early about like a one-stop place to find ECFE is like, you know, these lists of services or something like that would make it so that everybody would have like Nikki's resource brain, you know, to be able to say, have they tried this and have they tried this, or we have this, or you could offer this, you know. And anyway, but yeah, I mean, just, you know, to kind of is, you know, what are those general guidelines that we have about setting boundaries for ourselves and yet being compassionate and helpful. And, you know, and that's partly why too, I wanted to reflect on if she's coming to 2 classes, you know, when any of us are in really high need, like if we're making the effort to continue coming to something, whether it's church or a class or workout or that daily walk with the person down the street or, you know, or whatever it is. I think that that's really an indication of there's something you're getting out of that. Right. And so it may not be, it may not be therapy, but in a way it is because of its consistency and its reliability and just that normalcy of being with other people. That said, I certainly understand, Ellen, like in your situation of sort of the cloud that person brings. And it's also why I asked the question about sort of within the group, what does that mean? Right? Can the group be helpful, but at the same time, how might it affect the group or infect the group? you
And
know?
the group, I mean, the Tuesday group that she's in, those moms, they've just, of that group, there's 35 kids. They've just got it. You know what I mean? It's just
Yeah.
one of those groups where, I mean, they are all struggling, right? But they all have good support systems that, family, they have partners who are helpful.
Yeah.
So it's night and day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just night and day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Nikki, I see your point in the chat when you say liaisons. Is that sort of a good mantra word that you have in your head about sort of a situation like Ellen is facing that is extreme, but I wouldn't say is going to be I mean, as an educator for decades, right? I've had situations like that too. And that I think we almost attract because of our compassionate nature and because as strong women, I think we also convey to people like we're good people to come to figure stuff out, right? That it's not just a good listening ear, but it's like, what would Ellen do? Well, Ellen would do that. What would Nikki do? What would Jennifer, what would Kelly do? And so, and so it's, like we're always in that situation, or I mean, not always, but we will all be in the situation. So I'll come back to Nikki. So Nikki, do you find that sort of that word liaison is a good sort of anchor for you for what is your role in a situation like that?
I for sure do. That's why I put it there.
Good.
I'll say that I think we've had conversation over the past couple of weeks, people wondering like perhaps what is their place in this? I'm not a therapist. We each know what our skill set is and where we come in. And to which I say, and so people are thinking, well, perhaps I don't have a place in this. What I have to say is we are the liaisons. We 100%, there's no question in my mind. I know what your role is. We are PEs. We are liaisons to these resources. And so we do have the skill set, like Susan, you're saying, we have the skill set to sit with someone in their angst, right? So I can sit with you in the hardest of your emotions. I can also be that strength for you to make that call. That's why I asked the question about, can we make it together? Because a lot of our families, they just need that when they have that one-on-one, they're able to make the call because you were sitting there. And if they stumbled for words or whatnot, we can put it on speaker and do it together. And then they're off and running with that next piece of their journey. But I really do believe that our place is to be that liaison. And some of it, sometimes we do get back to the direct PE content, right? We're talking about parent development, child development, family development, and all of the pieces that we are really, really, really well versed to navigate, right? But yeah, I absolutely think that if anyone's ever questioning their role, we are liaisons.
Great, thank you. Good. Well, thanks, Ellen, for bringing that up. It continues to be one of the toughest situations, and I think the other part of that, at least it has been for me, is there's a Jerry son is sort of not playing that I'm a hero kind of role. It is like, look what I did for this, I don't know. I mean, maybe I don't know. Sometimes because that this person comes to you and you want to be helpful, that we also have a human tendency to be like, look what I could do for that person, when it's the, and I think it's just sort of that feeling grateful that that person could be helped, when their situation seems so challenged. I don't know, but anyway, yeah, I know, but it is hard. It really is hard. And especially, it sounds like for you, Ellen, something that has been enduring a bit. So thank you for being there for her. Yeah.
As much as I can. Sometimes I feel like I'm not doing anything, but.
Yeah, but again, this is why, again, I think that you holding the class, you know, and I'd say this for everybody, and in fact, on a presentation yesterday, it was nice. It was about global girls, empowering global girls. I mean, girls worldwide who live in rural areas. And so most of these folks, it was for a non-governmental organization. And most of the folks who were part of the meeting, I was just giving a presentation related to how, you know, the role of technology in empowering girls. And you know, but it was nice because then in the conversation we were talking about supports for families and supports for parents. And there was a woman, I have no idea where she was from, I think maybe from an African country. And she and I are just jiving on the need for regular supports for families, you know, and I'm using my parks and my library and my, you know, it's just like all these constant forces you can depend on, you know, and I recall, you know, like the responses from parents as a result of COVID about ECFE, and one of the true values that ECFE had from your own hard work was that sense of constancy and consistency and availability that I think we tend to take for granted, because just like, well, you know, of course, this is what we do. We offer classes. I'm paid to teach classes. You know, like, you know, it's part of the school district. They offer classes, right? They hardly ever close. Now we can do virtual. And yet during COVID, there were a lot of programs that didn't hang in there. Like my own choir, like earlier, Sarah and I were sharing about our choir experiences. My women's choir, it was just like, bless their hearts. They continued to find a way to rehearse during COVID when all of these indoor venues had shut down, and these brave women, I was not one of them, these brave women were singing in a parking garage, like with their coats on, with a lamp, a headlamp to read their music in the practical dark, outside of a metro or a blue line stop, right? And yet they continued to do it, right? And again, that sense of consistency that brings that sense of stability in a really chaotic world for families, I honestly don't think can be undersold, right? And ignored. And so the fact that your class is there, Ellen, your classes are there, and that you are an available, compassionate liaison for her, and she can depend on your classes, you know, and, you know, I just think that, you know, she'll look back and see that was truly a lifeline for her. So applause for you. Applause
Thanks,
for
everybody.
Yeah.
I got to run too.
Yeah.
I'm
So,
sorry I took the whole time.
well, and usually I'm sorry we didn't get back. Yeah, and so check the chat. Thank you, Cinnamon. Yeah, usually I'm sorry we didn't get to your questions. We can come back to them next week.
Yeah.
But again,
Yeah.
if you're on Friends of Family Education, you'll get tons of stuff, and then also, you know, post it to the listserv.
Yeah.
And people will help.
Oh, yeah, I will explore that.
Yeah.
Facebook.
In fact, what you could even do is like, you could even do a little baby Google survey, and then people could put in information and you'd have it all organized by a spreadsheet.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, okay.
You know,
Thank you.
the one
Thank
to
you.
do
I will
that.
explore. Yeah, start just simple questions from baby start.
But it's good you have this resource to ask the questions too. So
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Thank you so much, everyone.
yeah. Well, take care, everyone. Stay warm, stay upright, and
See you next
hopefully
week.
next week will be warmer.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.